These are the top 10 Patreon picks for Whiskey of the Year 2025, and we have some good ones in here. Stick around. What's up, guys? Jeff coming to you from the 18, and Christmas may be done and dusted, but that doesn't mean that I've stopped drinking. That doesn't sound... So today we're going over another Whiskey of the Year list, but this time it is not mine. This list is from my patrons, and they picked some good ones. Now, for the record, my patrons have nothing but the most discerning of palates. In order to become a patron, you need a genius level IQ, and you need to pass a series of tests to determine if you're cool enough to give me free money. Also, they all need to be really, really ridiculously good looking. I don't make the rules. Actually, no, I do make the rules, and those are the rules. As always, it is a G Whiskey video, which means I have a mystery pour in the glass, which I will reveal at the end of the video. This is one of the whiskeys that was put forward for Whiskey of the Year, but it didn't make it into the top 10. It is a beautiful whiskey. Your hint for today is that this is a sherried whiskey. It is very gently peated, and it is from a relatively new distillery in the Western Highlands. That is your hint. Good luck guessing. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump into this list. Top 10 whiskeys of the year, according to my patrons. Oh, also, leave a like, please. All right, coming in at the back of this list is a whiskey that I have yet to try, and that is Ledaig Hebridean Moon. Now, this one is meant to be a cask strength version of the regular Ledaig 10, and so far I've heard nothing but good things about it. This one's going to be bourbon matured. It's fully natural. Now, I am a big fan of the Ledaig 10, not as much as some of you out there, but it is definitely a whiskey that I enjoy, and I have no doubt that making it cask strength would bring it up a notch. I, again, have yet to see it in my market, but I will be snatching it up the moment I do. Comes in at number 10, Ledaig Hebridean Moon. Number 9 is a whiskey that I've had before, that I've reviewed before, and I absolutely love it, and that is the Glenmorangie Signet. Now, this one does come in at the more premium side of things. Now, for my lists, my Whiskey of the Year type stuff, I'll have my Whiskey of the Year, which is always going to be available and affordable. And then I'll put out another video called Premium Whiskey of the Year. Stay tuned, that'll be out next week. But for this list, for my patrons, I just said, what did you enjoy this year? Don't worry about price. So this list is not going to be restricted to any specific price point. We've got some premium stuff in here. We've got some affordable stuff in here. It's just whatever they liked. And for this one, as I said, it's premium, but it tastes premium. Yes, it is on the expensive side, but I'm happy to pay for it because I enjoy it that much. I think this is a very unique whiskey. It is made using chocolate malt, meaning they roast some of the barley before they distill it. And apparently some of the component whiskeys in here are upwards of 30 years old. So I hear. I know how easy it is to become cynical in the world of Scotch whiskeys, so you might see a package like this and think, oh, it's marketing, it's gimmicky, they're just all flash, no substance, but that's really not the case. This whiskey is as good as you'd hope it would be, looking like it does in a bottle like that. Yeah, this is what I've been ranting and raving about for years. I think my patrons made a great choice here. And yeah, a thoroughly enjoyable and beautiful whiskey comes in at number 9, Glenmorangie Signet. Next on the list is another whiskey that I have not had before, and that is the Ardnamurchan Madeira. Now, I have had an Ardnamurchan Madeira before, but the one I had was not this year's release. So the 2025 release is apparently a little bit different, and it's been really well received. The one I've got at the bar behind me is the 2022 release, and that one was unpeated, and it was much more of a limited run. How many bottles? They had 6,000 bottles roughly that they put out of the 2022 release. The 2025 bottling is gently peated, a limited release again, but much bigger one. This time they put out almost 20,000 bottles, and yeah, apparently it's a step up. I did like the 2022 release, but it didn't blow me away, and yeah, I just keep hearing about this new 2025 release, both from patrons and viewers and just people in general, so it's definitely on the wish list. It comes in at number 8, Ardnamurchan Madeira. All right, number 7 is a whiskey that I have had, and in fact, I've had a whole lot of it. This is probably one of the whiskeys that I've had the most of in my life. I mean, it's got to be up there, and it kind of surprised me because it's a whiskey that you don't hear about too much. It's not really in the conversation as much as it used to be. I'm not sure why that is, but my patrons went with Bunnahabhain 12 here. This stuff was legendary whiskey back in the day. Again, you don't hear about it quite as much nowadays, but it is still something that I know a lot of people enjoy and a lot of people still buy. I will admit, I don't like the newer bottling. since the rebranding as much as the previous one. Initially, I thought it was more of a sidestep and not necessarily a step down in quality, but I've since changed my tune on that, and I do think that the older bottlings were stronger. That said, the newer bottlings, still delicious. This is such an accessible, easy to like, great bang for buck whiskey, completely unpeated, fully craft, and yeah, as I said, bang for buck. The price is right on this one. It makes sense on the list, so it comes in at number 7, Bunnahabhain 12. Number 6 is Ardnahoe 5-year-old. This was the inaugural release, and a lot of noise was made about this whiskey when it came out back in 2024, and I was one of the voices singing its praise. This is a 5-year-old whiskey from Islay's newest distillery. It is peaty, it is bold, it has some interesting flavors. It's made using worm tubs, so it's got that sort of rugged quality to it, and a decent maturity for a 5-year-old whiskey. So it's good stuff. I think this is a brand that's going places. I'm already impressed with the stuff they're putting out. This one is my favorite. Their inaugural 5-year-old is my favorite release from them. They have a couple other bottles called the Infinite Lock and the Bolsa. I will be reviewing those at some point. Still good. On the younger side for me. This one for me tastes like the most mature of the lot, the 5-year-old. But all very good whiskeys for where they're at. I can't wait for their stock to mature a little bit. I'm sure they're going to be putting out some bangers in the coming years, and yeah, already impressive stuff. So Ardnahoe 5 comes in at number 6. Next up, we are back in premium territory with Longrow 18. Now, this was reasonably priced once upon a time, but that is no longer the case. To be fair, MSRP is still pretty reasonable, but while the Springbank craze is slowly dying down, it's not gone away yet, and at least in my market, you're not going to find this at any kind of recommended retail price. You're going to find it at secondary prices, and even then, it's pretty sparse. So not a bottle that I got to try too much this year. I think I had 1 or 2 pours from it. Beautiful stuff, but yeah, definitely on the rarer side. This is peat, sherry, age, depth, complexity, and the classic Springbank Campbelltown funk. It's a banger. Some people prefer the 18 to the 21. I don't, but I see where they're coming from. I do think this is one of the better 18-year-olds on the market today if you find it at that retail price. Yeah, totally makes sense here. Wish I could get my hands on it. Comes in at number 5, Longrow 18. Number 4 is one that I can't really talk about too much because I've never had it. There's a few releases. I think there's 3 releases so far, and I've never had a single one of them, and that is the Meikle Toir Turbo. People keep telling me about this bottle. It does not show up in my market, or if it does, it gets bought out immediately, but I cannot tell you how many times this has been recommended to me this year. This stuff is matured in virgin oak casks, Oloroso sherry hogshead. It is peated at 72 ppm, so quite high. 50% ABV, fully natural, 5 years old. On paper, this sounds great. Now, to be completely honest though, I haven't loved the standard Meikle Toir releases that I've tried. I've tried a couple of them and I thought they were solid, but they didn't really blow me away. But I'm told that this is the bottle you've got to try, and I'm keen to do so as soon as I can ever come across it. So this one comes in at number 4, Meikle Toir Turbo. At number 3, we have a great bottle from one of my favorite brands. We have the Craigellachie 13 Balzamaniac, which is a beautiful whiskey. This is basically the standard 13-year-old Craigellachie for the first 12 years, and then it's been given a 1-year finish in Armagnac brandy casks. If you're a fan of the channel, you know that I absolutely love brandy casks, and I absolutely love Craigellachie 13, and I think this bottle worked out beautifully. This is a little bit less rugged. It's a little bit more rounded and fruitier than the standard 13, but it's really nice. Don't worry, this is still a Craigellachie, so it is still going to be a rugged and somewhat intense whiskey, but as I said, just a little bit gentler, a little bit softer around the edges and slightly fruitier, but I think that adds as opposed to takes away. It is still very similar to the standard 13 though, so keep that in mind. I like the twist from the brandy cask, and I think this is a great addition to the core range. One you should try if you haven't. Craigellachie 13 Balzamaniac. Coming in at number 2 is Kilkerran 16. This is one that I've tried before. It's one I've reviewed before, and I really liked it. I like pretty much everything out of Kilkerran, to be fair, but I have to say I think the 16-year-old is probably their strongest release for me. It is worth noting, though, that this is a batchy whiskey. It's intentionally batchy. They play around with the cask makeup every year. There's always going to be some proportion of bourbon and sherry in the mix. Sometimes they play around with rum a little bit too. But for this year, the breakdown was 60% bourbon and 40% sherry cask, and there's no rum, and it's been really well received. Actually, you know what? I can't say that I've had this one before because I haven't had the 2025 release. I think the one I had was maybe 2022 or 2023, so it would have been a slightly different cask makeup, but broadly speaking, I can definitely vouch for the quality. This stuff is going to give us some of that Campbelltown farminess. We have a gentle touch of peat in here. We get cereals. It's quite barley forward. And I think what makes the 16 special is that it gives us a lot more subtlety and nuance, if I may be so pretentious. And I just think it is an absolutely beautiful pour. So I am really keen to try the 2025 release, or any other release for that matter. Anytime I come across a Kilkerran 16 and the price point is reasonable, I pick it up because it is just across the board a great brand, and the 16, as I said, my favorite. Comes in at number 2. All right, number 1 is not a surprise, and if you're a fan of the channel, this will be probably the least shocking result of all time, but it's not a stretch to think that my patrons, the people who choose to support me, probably share some similar tastes, and yeah, they opted for Craigellachie 13. God bless them. This stuff was my first whiskey of the year. It is, to this day, probably my favorite affordable pour of whiskey of all time. It's big, it's rough, it's meaty. That's what she said. This is not something that you would recommend to a beginner. This is for people who want something more intense, more challenging, and more unique. For the specs, 46% non-chill filtered natural color. We have bourbon and sherry casks in here, but through that rugged distillate still shines. So is this a predictable choice? Maybe, but it is the right choice. This is a great whiskey, and I will never shut up about it. And I think my patrons are very good-looking geniuses for choosing this as number 1. So there we go, Craigellachie 13. And that was the list, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. It is always nice to reach out to my supporters and hear what's working for them. And this year's list was kind of fun because there was plenty of stuff on there that obviously I have tried, but a good chunk of these whiskeys I have not tried, and I need to rectify that. Anyway, this is the part of the video where I reach out to you guys. So what do you think of the list? What do you think was missing from the list? What would you add? How do you feel about my patrons' choices? You can let me know all of that down below. Finally, if you stuck around for the mystery pour, I mentioned that this is a sherried whiskey with a gentle touch of peat from the Western Highlands that has been very well received, and it almost made it into the top 10 this year. What I'm drinking is Ardnamurchan Sherry Cask. Now, I don't know how this has evolved over the last few years. I think this one is the 2023 release, and I've not had one since. So if it's changed, that's something that I guess I will need to investigate. But for this 2023 release, beautiful stuff. It's Ardnamurchan. I mean, they're always good. And that will be it for today's video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. A huge thank you to my patrons, not just for contributing to today's video, but for helping me out throughout the year. I really do appreciate it. And if any of you out there want to help support a poor, struggling business owner such as myself, I'll include the links down below. Guys, I probably won't see you, at least not on YouTube, until next year. So Happy New Year. Hope you're all happy and healthy. We'll catch you next week with my premium whiskey of the year. Take care.